Are you struggling to keep your career mode realistic? Or do you just want to not make your career mode completely unrealistic in the first few seasons? Then this video is for you, as I will be giving you some tips to make your career mode save more realistic in FIFA 22. If you go in and enjoy this video, then be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel to not miss any other career mode tips. It helps this channel out massively. Now let's get into the video. So the first tip of this video is regarding your star players, and this is mainly one for when you are not using one of the biggest clubs in the world in your save. It's basically that you at least have to negotiate when a bigger club comes in for one of your players in your career mode. So let's say your main striker has been playing very well in the previous season, became top goal scorer, and you just got promoted to the EFL Championship, the second English division. Most likely there will be a few lower rated Premier League clubs coming in for this striker. To keep the career mode more realistic, you at least have to start negotiations with these clubs. Of course, you don't want to sell your striker, which is understandable, but in real life these lower league clubs can really profit a lot from selling a player for a few £1,000,000 and help make the club financially stable for the next few seasons. When you are in negotiations with the other club that wants your striker, don't just ask for a ridiculous amount of money, which means the other club will walk away from negotiations, but offer a sensible amount of money that could still see the opposing club accept the transfer offer, would help your club financially and give you enough money to find a good replacement. Now, of course, this tip can get a little out of hand when every good player of your squad gets a transfer offer from a bigger club, so I would put some limitations on it. For example, choose a couple of players that you just don't want to sell. An example can be the captain, who is of course appreciated by your club and by the fans and would most likely not leave the club that easily in real life. Another example can be the goalkeeper, who plays every match for your club and could be the second goalkeeper when he moves to a bigger club, so he decides to stay at the current club and get regular playing time. As the transfer window in FIFA 22 career mode is the summer transfer window that just passed in real life, it's not very realistic to start a new save and immediately get new players in and selling other players. Disabling this option before starting the save will give you the opportunity to play with players you normally would sell and not even bother playing, and keep the career mode a bit more realistic, as the AI can't make any transfers to other teams neither, and the first transfer starts happening in the January transfer window of the first season. A difficult question to always answer is how many signings can you make per season to keep your save realistic. This is quite an open answer, as it really depends on the club's situation. Because you see promoted clubs sign a lot of players in real life, as they now have the funds to actually sign more players than usual, and they need to strengthen their squad a lot in order to not immediately get relegated in the next season. In other instances, you have big teams barely signing any players, as they already have a high quality, large squad that needs minimal upgrades. Then you have other teams that mainly focus on a youth academy and sign lesser known talents from teams outside the top 5 leagues, then grow that player for a few years, who eventually gets into the main team and gets sold for a big sum of money a few years later. But there are also teams that are going through a transformation in real life, letting go of a lot of older players and signing younger players instead. So as you can see, it's quite a difficult question to answer. But if you are a big team in your league, I would recommend to look at 1 or 2 players can go straight into the starting 11 of your team, and 2 or 3 younger players who are mainly for the in brackets youth team and who slowly get more and more playing time throughout the seasons. For a newly promoted team, I would look at 4 to 5 players who can get into the starting 11 immediately, with 2 to 3 younger players for the bench or reserves. For a team that's going through a transformation in real life, let's say Crystal Palace, I would recommend to sign 3 to 4 players each season and slowly rebuild their positions where all the players played previously. Or you can go to a slightly different path and only assign 1 or 2 starting 11 players and 3 to 4 younger players who can eventually take over one of the positions in the starting 11. Now onto sites that usually focus a lot on the youth academy, I would recommend to make a maximum of 1 signing for the starting 11 and 4 to 5 younger talents. Make sure some of these younger talents get loaned out to other teams to get regular playing time. They eventually get a higher rating through these loan periods, and eventually they can be added onto the first team squad of your club and slowly get into the starting 11. When you sell one of your main players for a big sum of money, it can be easy to find a replacement who is actually even higher rated than the sold player is. Whilst it is quite fun to use better players, it's not very realistic, especially when you are into the first few seasons of your road to glory, for example. Selling one player for a certain amount can make the lower leagues very easy to come out of, as you all of a sudden have a lot more money than the other teams. I would recommend that when you sell a player for a big fee, that you can only reinvest a certain part of that money to sign a replacement player. The other funds can go towards the youth academy, or you can just leave it in the transfer budget, as hard as that might seem for some people. Make sure the replacement player also isn't the same rating or higher rated than the player you had before, because how many times do you actually see that happen in real life? When it comes to signing new players, it's important to not sign all of the starting 11 players from bigger clubs, and I would actually say to not sign any starting 11 players from clubs bigger than yours. It doesn't happen often in real life when other clubs sign starting 11 players from bigger clubs, so I would suggest to do a bit more research when signing a player to check and see if they are the best player in their position for their current club, and if they are, look elsewhere. This will be quite tough at first, but it will help you make your save more realistic, and it will stop you signing the likes of Camavinga, Haaland and all the other wonder kids in the game. A small tip is to change your manager and players' clothing during each season. So whenever it's getting to winter, give your players long sleeves or an undershirt. And whenever it's getting close to summer, change the clothing back to just a t-shirt and without an undershirt. The same counts for your manager, who might like wearing a t-shirt in the summer but shouldn't wear that in the winter months. Another tip to keep your career mode a bit more realistic is by not breaking the club's transfer record when signing a new player, as it's most likely very rare that your club breaks their own transfer record every season in real life. I wouldn't immediately splash out the entire transfer budget on one big player and break the club's transfer record. You can, however, break the club's transfer record later down the line, when you are a few seasons into the career mode. That's at least me guessing that you are getting good results with your club and have taken them to new heights they haven't reached in a long time, or maybe never in their club history. That's when I would say it's quite realistic to break the club's transfer record, in my opinion. The last tip of today is to keep an eye out for club traditions and keep them intact when selling one of your players to another team. Let's say Athletic Bilbao come in for your English youngster, what do? Well, as Athletic Bilbao have a very special club tradition of only signing players from the Basque region, you should not sell your English youngster to them and keep the club tradition from Athletic Bilbao intact. There is of course a chance that Bilbao go out and sign a different English youngster, but as that is a transfer from the AI, you can't do anything about it. At least you played your part keeping their club tradition intact. The same goes for when you start a career mode with a similar club like Athletic Bilbao. I would recommend to search for it on Google and see if the club you chose to start a career mode with has a certain club tradition regarding signing players, or if they sign any specific type of players, for example players from Scandinavia or players from South America. Does your team mostly sign youngsters, older players or free agents? All things to keep an eye on when looking at signings for your club. These were some tips to keep or make your career mode more realistic in FIFA 22. Let me know in the comments which are the tips you use to keep your save realistic, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and subscribe to my channel to not miss any other career mode tips, and I will see you at the next video.